Yeah, welcome to the second module of the Security Fundamental course. And in this second module, we are going to talk about some basic security concepts too. The concept of least privilege, need to know, defense in depth, and two-person or two-man integrity. So this is going to be a short video just to complement the previous video about the CIA triad. So let's begin by looking at the principle of least privilege. So the principle of least privilege, which is short form of POLP, it states that a given user account should have the exact access right necessary to execute their roles and responsibility. So it means that you have an account that is at user level, you have another account that is at a manager level, and you have another account that is an admin level. So what least privilege means that a user should have access to perform user-related function alone, and a user should not be able to perform a manager-related role because they would not have or they should not have the privilege that a manager has. So the user will be given enough privilege to just do their function alone. And it also means that the manager would not be able to perform administrator role. That's because they would not be given that privilege. So when you give a user the exact privilege they need to perform their roles and responsibility, no more and no less, it means you are enforcing the principle of least privilege. And it's a fundamental concept within identity and access management. We are going to talk about IAM in some other videos right down in this course. But you need to note that usually the principle of least privilege always involves people, and it centers around roles and permissions that are given to certain users based on their job function. And this is why sometimes when you try to do some things at work, you get the message access denied. Access is denied because you do not have the permission to perform that particular activity based on your job role. So the permission given to you is based on your job role, and when you're trying to do something more than your job role, you are denied access. That is the principle of least privilege. So there are several ways this can be enforced, but this is just to introduce you to the concept. So the second concept is the concept of need to know. So need to know means that employee or users only know the information that are necessary to carry out their function. They don't need to know more. And this implies that somebody in IT, for example, only know about IP addresses because they need to work with IP addresses. They only know about configuration because they need to work about configuration. They don't necessarily need to know the financial record of the organization. So they don't necessarily need to know the financial record of the organization. So you enforce this privilege in such a way that they only have access to information that they need to know based on the classification level of the information. And information can be classified, depending on different organizations. But when you have information that are highly classified, information that are confidential, so this is a level of classification of information, confidential. So when you have information that are confidential, so you only want people that need to know this information to have access to the information, such as the executives or the director or senior management level. But for information that is public, so this is information that you can give to the public that can be posted on your company website. And the people that need to know this information is anybody. So anybody can know this information. For information or data that you classify as internal, it means that only your employee need to know this information. That's the principle of need to know. It means that you only tell people or you only give people access that they need to know at the time they need to know. So not that you give them too much. This is just to avoid one person having access to too much of information or information they are not supposed to have access to. Very similar to least privilege, but a few differentiator. Least privilege is about roles, permissions given to certain roles in order to perform your function. And need to know is about you having access to specific records and information. So let's look at defense in depth. And it's really in depth because what defense in depth depicts is you have your asset. So we're saying this is your asset, for example. An asset is anything that adds value to the organization. We've made this clarification in one of the videos. So you have your asset, but instead of leaving this asset to just a single layer of protection, you have multiple layers of protection that needs to be broken, or multiple layers of barrier that needs to be broken before somebody can have access to that asset. For example, in this example, let's say this star is our asset, and the first layer of protection is kept in a locked cabinet. So, and that locked cabinet is kept in an office that has a door, and the door is locked. And when you leave that office, there's an exterior door which is also locked. And when you leave the compound, there's a perimeter fence which also has a gate and security guard. It means that for somebody to have access to this asset, they need to pass through the perimeter fence, that's bypass the security guard. They need to pass through the exterior door with access key. They need to come into the office, to the office door, and they need to have access to the locked cabinet. So because you have put these layers of protections in place that needs to be broken before the person can have access to the asset, so this is called defense in depth. And it's a principle that ensures that no single silver bullet can protect an asset. So it's not that you're putting one single layer of protection in place and you're having the complacency that the asset is protected. So any layer of protection might fail. So, and what you want to achieve with defense in depth is if a layer of protection fails, then the next layer of protection also can take charge. And the whole essence of this is to ensure that you are delaying the amount of time that a compromise can happen. No system is 100% secured, unless no system cannot be breached. But what you're saying, you want to be able to delay the amount of time so that you can have enough time to respond to the security incident. So measures must be across a wide range of controls. So we're going to talk about different types of controls. We have preventive, we have corrective, we have detective, and we have detective kind of control. But you have to implement several kinds of control in order to protect the asset, and these controls has to be in layers, and that is what the principle of defense in depth apologies is all about. Okay, let's talk about TPI. TPI means two-person integrity, and is a principle that prevents single-person 100% access to a protected data. So two persons must be in constant view of each other and the material that they want to protect. And this is very common in financial institutions, whereby you have two keys to a vault where money is kept, and it needs these two persons to be able to unlock the vault before access can be gotten to the money. So that is two-person integrity. And in two-person integrity, it means that access to secret information can be conducted only under the two-person integrity requirement. So, and this is two-person integrity is also common in cryptography, especially when you are managing encryption keys. So it's common in cryptography. In cryptography, a critical element of cryptography is the key, is the cryptographic key. And it means that you are encrypting a data, so you need two-person integrity requires that you have a pair of key. So half of the key is with one person and the remaining half is with another person. And you require these two persons to be present in order for them to be able to decrypt the data, in order for them to be able to unlock the data. So, and this is a typical application of two-person integrity. So that is the concept we are going to check in this video. Like I said, it's a very short video that is meant to complement the previous security fundamental video. See you in the next video. Thank you.